Rain poured like steel needles on the metal roofs of Vorga 9, a cold trading planet where even mercy had a price. The marketplace was loud, cruel, and full of shadows. Creatures from 100 worlds gathered there, not for trade in gold but in flesh. At the center of the market stood a huge iron cage. Inside it knelt a tall silver-skinned woman, Velara. Her glowing blue eyes looked empty, her long white hair matted with dirt and rain, chains as thick as a man's arm wrapped around her wrists. Even when she breathed, the ground seemed to tremble. The auctioneer's voice sliced through the noise. "Behold, the last of the Aurelians, too big to breed, too strong to tame, worth more as meat than his mate." The crowd laughed, throwing coins and curses. Someone shouted, "Cut her apart. Sell the organs, Aurelian flesh glows in the dark." Another yelled, "She's useless for breeding, feed her to the beasts." Velara closed her eyes. She had heard these words before. She had been called useless since birth. Too tall, too strong, too strange. Her own kind had abandoned her to the traders. To them, she was not a woman. She was weight, size, and shame. When the guards pulled her up, she didn't resist. She had stopped fighting long ago. The chain around her neck clinked as she was dragged into the auction light. The auctioneer smiled with rotten teeth. "Start the bid. Who wants the biggest waste of space in the galaxy?" The crowd roared with laughter. A few pirates raised small offers, hoping to turn her body into rare material for weapons. Her heart was heavy. The sky itself felt dead above her. And then from the back of the crowd a calm voice said, "I'll buy her." The laughter stopped. Heads turned. A human man stepped forward, tall in a dark coat with a small silver star on his chest. His face was calm, his eyes sharp and clear. He didn't wear the grin of a traitor. His expression was quiet, unreadable. The auctioneer frowned. "Human, you sure you can pay? This beast will break your ship in half." The man's reply was steady. "Name your price," whispers spread. "A human buying a giant alien? Impossible." The auctioneer sneered, expecting him to back down. But the man placed a chip on the counter, its light blinking gold. "Enough credits to buy a star cruiser." Everyone fell silent. Velara slowly lifted her head, meeting his eyes for the first time. His gaze didn't carry disgust or fear. It carried something she hadn't seen in years, respect. Why would you buy me?" Her voice trembled, rusty and broken. The man stepped closer. "Because no one deserves to be sold," the crowd murmured. The auctioneer shrugged and slammed the cage open. "She's yours, human. Hope she doesn't crush you in your sleep." Velara didn't move. The man walked inside the cage himself. The guards warned him, "Stay back, she's dangerous." But he ignored them and placed a cloak over her shoulders. "Come with me," he said softly. "You're free now. Free." The word sounded strange in her ears. As she stood, the metal bars bent under her movement. The crowd gasped at her height, taller than any creature in the square. Yet beside the human, she looked less like a monster and more like something noble, something fallen. As they walked through the rain toward his ship, whispers followed them. Why would a human buy that thing? He's crazy. He must want her power. Velara didn't understand him. No one had ever saved her before. Every world had treated her as a curse. But this man, he looked at her as if she were alive again. When they reached the landing pad, his ship waited, sleek and silver, glowing faintly in the storm. Its name was written across the side, the horizon's edge. The man turned to her and said quietly, "My name is Rin." Velara hesitated, then whispered back, "Velara." And for the first time in years, her name didn't sound like an insult. As the ship rose into the night sky, the market lights faded below. No one in the crowd knew that this small act, the human buying the giant, would change the fate of galaxies. The ship Horizon's Edge drifted through the endless dark, its silver hull glowing softly under the stars. Inside, silence filled the corridors. Only the hum of the engines and the slow sound of breathing could be heard. Velara sat near the window, her huge frame too large for the metal chair beneath her. The cloak the human had given her still rested on her shoulders, warm, soft, and strange. It smelled like rain and steel. Like him, for hours she said nothing. She expected him to come with a chain, to order her, or to ask for something in return. That was how it always went before. No one helped without wanting something back, but Commander Rin was different. He sat across from her in the quiet cabin, reading data from a small holographic screen. Every now and then he looked up, not with fear but curiosity. His calm made her uneasy. Finally, Velara spoke. Her deep voice shook the air. Why did you buy me? Rin closed the screen and looked at her. Because no one should be treated like that. Her eyes narrowed. You expect me to believe that? Humans destroyed my world, he didn't argue. He just said quietly, maybe some did. But not all of us are the same. The words hit her harder than she expected. Most would have defended their kind, but he didn't. He simply spoke the truth, plain and steady. Velara turned back to the stars. You risked your life. For a thing that cannot even fit through your doors. Rin smiled faintly. Then we'll make the doors bigger. She blinked, confused. Was that a joke? His tone was too gentle to tell. Later, when he left the room, Velara wandered the ship. The walls were narrow, made for humans. She had to stoop to pass through the doors. The droids she passed trembled and beeped warnings. Alert, large biological presence detected. She ignored them and stepped into the med bay. Her reflection appeared in the glass wall, tall, scarred, monstrous. No wonder her people sold her. No wonder everyone looked at her with fear. But this human didn't. Rin returned with a tray of food. Real food, not nutrient paste. He placed it gently on the table beside her. You need strength, he said. She stared at it suspiciously. You poison me? He sighed softly. If I wanted you dead, the market was full of knives. Velara hesitated, then picked up a small piece of fruit. It was sweet, bright red, and juicy. Her eyes widened. She hadn't tasted real fruit in years. Good? Rin asked. She didn't answer, but he saw the smallest curve of her lips. A hint of a smile. Days passed. Velara watched how he worked, always fixing, cleaning, scanning. He treated the ship like a friend. Sometimes she caught him talking to it softly as if the machine had a soul. She started to help him without asking. When a heavy part needed moving, she lifted it easily. When the outer panels froze, she walked outside in the cold void and warmed them with her glowing hands. Rin would thank her with a simple nod. No orders, no control, just respect. One night, as stars drifted past the window, he said, You could leave if you wanted. I didn't buy you to keep you. Velara turned to him slowly. And where would I go? My people called me broken. Yours call me a beast, then stay, he said softly. Stay as you are. Not broken, not beast, just Velara. She stared at him for a long moment. There was no lie in his eyes, only warmth. For the first time in her life, she felt something dangerous and unfamiliar. Trust. But deep inside her, another feeling stirred. Fear. Not of him, but of what would happen if the world found out that a human had saved an Aurelian. As she looked out the window again, she whispered, They won't let this peace last. Rin didn't reply. He only looked at her reflection in the glass, a giant whose eyes glowed like stars. And he thought to himself, Let them come. I'll protect her even if it costs me everything. The horizon's edge drifted silently through a quiet region of space. The stars outside looked calm, but Rin knew better. Silence in deep space often came before chaos. Velara stood near the window, her massive frame reflected in the glass. Her eyes shimmered faintly, like blue fire under her skin. She had begun to trust the human captain, but peace felt strange to her. Too fragile, too easy to break. Then, without warning, the ship's alarm blared. Red lights flashed through the corridors. The calm hum of the engines turned into a nervous whine. Rin's voice came through the comm. Velara, stay in your room. We're under attack. Her head turned sharply. Attack from who? Before he could answer, the ship shook violently. She stumbled, gripping the wall as metal screamed around her. Outside the window she saw them. Pirate ships, black and jagged, circling like wolves around prey. Rin ran to the control deck, moving fast, his coat flaring behind him. Shields up. Prepare counterfire, he shouted to the ship's AI. The AI's calm voice replied, Shields at 47%. Hostile crafts closing in. Laser fire lit the darkness. The horizon's edge rocked under the hits. Rin gritted his teeth. He knew who these pirates were, flesh hunters. They must have followed them from Vorga 9. They wanted Velara. One of the pirates' messages broke through the comm. Hand over the Aurelian human. We'll let you live. Rin smirked coldly. Not happening. A blast hit the hull, throwing him against the console. Sparks flew. His arm bled, but he didn't stop. He grabbed a blaster and rushed out of the control room. Velara was already on her feet when the doors burst open. Armed pirates poured in, masked, loud, reeking of smoke and greed. "There she is," one shouted. "The Silver Giant." "Shoot to stun!" Energy blasts filled the room. Bolts of red light hit her chest, but instead of falling, Velara straightened, eyes glowing brighter. The pain awakened something deep inside her, something ancient and furious. She stepped forward slowly. The air seemed to thicken around her. The pirates fired again, but the bolts melted before touching her skin. Her voice was deep and steady. "You call me meat. You call me broken. But you forget. My blood remembers the stars." The floor cracked beneath her feet as invisible energy pulsed from her body. The pirates froze, their weapons trembling in their hands. She moved like lightning, fast and graceful despite her size. One swing of her arm sent 2 men flying against the wall. The lights flickered, metal groaned, and the ship's AI warned, "Power surge detected." Rin ran in just in time to see her surrounded by collapsing walls of light. He stared in shock as Velara raised both hands, her palms shining like twin suns. A wave of blue-white energy exploded from her, throwing the attackers back in a single burst. When the smoke cleared, the pirates were unconscious, or worse. The air smelled like burnt ozone. The ship's alarms went silent. Velara fell to her knees, panting, her body still glowing faintly. The energy that saved them now drained her strength. Rin ran to her side. "Velara, stop using it. You'll kill yourself." Her eyes flickered open. "I didn't mean to. I just wanted to protect." He caught her before she collapsed completely. Her skin felt hot, her pulse faint but steady. "You saved us," he whispered. "You saved me." Her voice came weakly. "I didn't know I could still do that. My people sealed this power long ago." Rin looked at her in awe. Then maybe it was never gone. Just waiting for the right reason. She gave a faint, tired smile. "You sound like one of the old priests." He laughed softly, brushing a strand of white hair from her face. "And you sound like someone who just destroyed a pirate fleet." Outside the window, the wreckage of the enemy ships drifted. Glowing faintly under the starlight, Rin carried Velara to the med bay and whispered, "Rest now. I'll keep watch." As she closed her eyes, her voice trembled one last time. "Rin, I felt something when you were in danger. Something I thought I'd lost." He looked at her, his expression unreadable. "Maybe it wasn't lost, Velara. Maybe it was just waiting for me." The engines of Horizon's Edge hummed softly again as they drifted away from the wrecks. 2 souls, human and alien, bound by something neither fully understood, but far beyond. In the shadow of the stars, someone else had seen the light of her power, and they were coming, days passed after the pirate attack. The Horizon's Edge floated quietly between 2 dying stars, its wounds healing under Rin's steady hands. The ship's hum had returned to calm, but something had changed between the 2 souls inside it. Velara slept for almost 2 days. When she finally woke, her body glowed faintly, veins of soft silver light tracing her arms like living rivers. She sat up slowly, confused, then saw Rin sitting beside her, his arm still bandaged, his eyes tired but peaceful. "You stayed here the whole time?" she asked softly. Rin smiled faintly. "Couldn't leave my hero unattended." She blinked. "Hero!" The word felt heavy in her mouth. "I destroyed half your ship," he chuckled quietly. "You also destroyed half a pirate fleet. I'd say that's a fair trade." Velara lowered her gaze. "You shouldn't have seen that power. It is forbidden." Rin tilted his head. "Forbidden by who?" For a long moment she didn't answer. Then she looked at the stars outside, her expression distant and sad. "By the ones who made us." Rin sat back, silent, letting her speak. The way her voice softened when she spoke of her people told him she carried centuries of pain. Velara took a slow breath. "My people, the Aurelians, were born in the core worlds, long before your species learned to walk upright. We were guardians of life, protectors of the balance between stars, but as centuries passed, we grew proud. We tried to shape the universe in our image." She paused, eyes glowing brighter. "We built cities inside suns. We played with creation. But we made one mistake, believing perfection could be designed." Rin listened, eyes fixed on her. "What happened?" "Our elders began selecting traits they called pure, smaller, gentler, easier to control. Those who were different, Those too large, too strong, too wild were called unfit. Her hands trembled. They said I was too big to breed, that my body broke the design. They took everything from me, my title, my home, even my name. Then they sold me to the traders to erase their shame. Rin felt anger burn inside him. They feared what they didn't understand. Velara nodded, her expression distant. And fear turns even gods into monsters. For a moment, silence filled the room. The ship's soft hum sounded like a heartbeat. Rin leaned forward. But that power you used, it came from your people, didn't it? She nodded slowly. Yes, the Aurelian core. It connects us to the living energy of stars. But our elders sealed it from me, afraid I would lose control. They said beings like me were too unstable, too emotional. Her voice cracked slightly. When I saved you, I felt that energy return. For the first time, it didn't burn, it obeyed. Rin smiled softly. Maybe it listened because you finally found someone worth fighting for. Velara turned her head, her glowing eyes meeting his. Do you always speak like that, human? Only when I'm telling the truth, he said simply. She looked away quickly, hiding a small, uncertain smile. Later that night, Velara wandered to the ship's observatory. The stars glimmered across the glass dome, endless and silent. She placed her hand against the cold surface and whispered in her native tongue, words older than any human language. Rin entered quietly behind her. What did you say? She didn't turn. A prayer. For the souls my people forgot. Rin stepped closer, his reflection beside hers in the glass. If your people made you suffer, why pray for them? Because once I loved them, she said. And love is not so easy to kill even after betrayal. Her words hung in the air like music. Rin watched her for a long moment. He realized that under the giant's strength was a heart that had never been allowed to heal. Velara, he said softly. If they ever come looking for you again, what will you do? She finally turned, her silver eyes glowing like moons. Then I will remind them what they created. Outside the ship, a faint pulse of golden light flickered across the horizon, a warning, unseen by either of them. The galaxy had noticed the return of an Aurelian's power, and soon the hunters would come. The stars around the horizon's edge looked calm, too calm. Space had that strange silence before storms, a silence Rin didn't trust. He sat in the cockpit, staring at the scanner display. Small blips appeared and vanished, nothing certain yet, but his instincts warned him something was coming. He'd been a soldier long enough to recognize the pattern of a hunt. Velara entered quietly, her steps heavy but graceful. Her silver skin shimmered faintly under the dim lights. You haven't slept, she said. Rin smirked. You notice everything. I notice danger, she replied. Your eyes move like prey that smells the predator. Rin looked at her, surprised by her choice of words. Maybe because I've been prey before, he said softly. Humans aren't always the hunters. Velara tilted her head, studying him. Then maybe that's why you understand me. Before he could answer, the console beeped sharply. The scanner filled with new signals, fast, organized, and closing in. Rin's smile vanished. They found us. Within minutes, space filled with shadows, Aurelian warships, their sleek golden hulls glowing like suns. The sight froze Velara, her people. Rin's voice cut through the silence. Velara, they're hailing us. She took a deep breath, her hands trembling slightly. Don't answer. If they know I'm alive, they'll destroy you too. Rin looked at her firmly. They already know. You lit half the system when you used your power. Velara's throat tightened. Then you should leave me. I can survive in space, you can't. If you stay, they'll kill you. Rin's reply came like steel. I didn't save you to abandon you later. The ship shook as the first energy blast struck the shields. The sound of impact echoed through the corridors. Rin gritted his teeth, switching controls, sending counterfire, but the difference in power was clear. The Aurelian fleet was massive. They're not here to capture me, Velara whispered. They're here to erase me. Rin turned to her, anger flashing in his eyes. Because you were born different? Because you dared to survive? Velara didn't answer. Her gaze was fixed on the glowing ships outside, her expression unreadable. They believe the universe must be balanced, and to them I am imbalance. Another hit rocked the ship. Warning lights flashed red. Rin slammed a fist on the console. Damn it, shields down to 40%. Velara stepped forward, calm amid the chaos. Open the outer hatch. He stared at her. What? You'll get yourself killed. Her voice was steady. If I don't stop them, you will die first. This is not your fight, Rin. He stood face to face with her massive form. It became my fight the moment I bought you. You're not a weapon, Velara. You're a person. For a brief moment, she almost smiled. Then let me protect my person too. The hatch opened. Cold vacuum roared outside as Velara stepped into the emptiness of space. Her body began to glow, first softly, then brighter, until her silver skin turned radiant white. The Aurelians paused their fire. Across the lead ship, a deep voice boomed through the comms. Velara of the Broken Line, you were judged unfit. Why do you still live? Her voice echoed back, powerful and calm. Because you were wrong. The enemy fleet moved closer, forming a golden circle around her. Inside the horizon's edge, Rin watched through the glass, heart pounding. Come back. Please come back, he whispered. Outside, Velara lifted her arms. The stars themselves seemed to tremble. Energy rippled from her, beautiful and terrifying. The Aurelian ships fired all at once, but the blasts dissolved before touching her, as if the light itself obeyed her will. She raised her head, her voice like thunder. You called me too large to create life, but today I give life to your fear. A brilliant wave of blue light burst from her body, expanding outward like a rising sun. The enemy ships spun out of formation, their systems fried by the pulse. Rin shielded his eyes as the light filled the cockpit. Velara, he shouted. Stop before... Her voice echoed faintly through the comm. No. Rin. They need to see what they threw away. When the light finally faded, the golden ships were gone, retreated or destroyed. Velara drifted back toward the ship, her energy dim, her body weak. Rin rushed to the airlock and caught her as she collapsed inside. She looked up at him, her eyes faintly glowing. They'll come again, she whispered. Next time they'll bring the whole fleet. Rin held her close. Then we'll be ready. She gave a tired, small smile. You say we like you're one of us. Rin looked at her and whispered, Maybe I am now. Outside, the stars flickered like watchful eyes, silent witnesses to the start of a war neither of them could escape. The horizon's edge drifted through a dying nebula, glowing faintly from the battle scars of the last fight. The air inside was quiet, too quiet. Rin patched a cracked panel with trembling hands. Every sound, the hiss of steam, the hum of the reactor felt louder than it should. Velara lay in the med bay, still and pale. Her glow, once bright as sunrise, had dimmed to a faint silver pulse beneath her skin. The energy she had unleashed against the Aurelian fleet had nearly consumed her. Rin sat beside her, eyes red from sleepless nights. You shouldn't have done that, he whispered. You nearly burned yourself out. Her voice was weak but steady. They would have killed you. Rin laughed softly, bitterly. And now they'll kill both of us. Velara's eyes flickered open. You regret saving me? He looked at her for a long moment. Never. I just regret not being strong enough to protect you back. For a second, her lips curved into the faintest smile. Humans, she murmured. Always thinking they must protect everything. Even stars. The peace didn't last. The ship's alarm screamed again. The console flickered red. The radar filled with new signals, larger this time. Rin's stomach turned cold. Dozens of Aurelian dreadnoughts surrounded them, each one glowing like a miniature sun. Velara sat up slowly. The light in her eyes brightened again. They brought their prime fleet, she whispered. The ones who judge entire worlds. Rin clenched his fists. Then they're about to meet someone they failed to judge right. He ran to the control deck, but Velara stopped him with a gentle touch. Her massive hand covered his. Rin, this is not your fight anymore. He shook his head. It was never mine, but it became ours. Her heart ached at his words. If I unleash my full light again, she warned, I won't survive. My body can't hold that power twice. Then we'll find another way, he said. Velara's expression softened. There is no other way. They will keep coming until I am gone. Rin's voice cracked. I can't lose you. She leaned close, her forehead touching his. Her voice was soft, like wind in the stars. You didn't find me to keep me. You found me to free me. Outside, the enemy ships formed a glowing circle. A deep, cold voice filled the comms. Velara of the Broken Line, you violated the balance. You brought ruin. Your light ends here. Velara walked toward the airlock. Each step echoed like thunder through the hull. Rin followed, shouting, "Velara, wait!" She looked back at him one last time. "When I first met you, I wanted to die. Now, because of you, I want to live. That is why I must do this." The door opened. A flood of white light engulfed her as she stepped into the void. The nebula around her began to pulse, waves of color rippling across the stars. Velara floated between the enemy fleet, her body glowing brighter and brighter until it was impossible to tell where she ended and the light began. The Aurelian ships opened fire, all beams of gold converging on her. She spread her arms. "You called me unfit to create life, but look how your fear gave me strength." The power within her ignited. Her voice carried across the comms like thunder and song combined. Light is not made to be controlled. It is made to burn, to heal, to protect. Her entire form exploded into pure brilliance. The horizon's edge was pushed back by the force, shields barely holding. Inside, Rin shielded his eyes. "Velara!" he screamed. Through the blinding glow, her last words echoed. "You gave me a reason, human. Now I give you my gift." The light swept across the fleet. One by one, the Aurelian dreadnoughts disintegrated into dust. Then silence. Only starlight remained. When the glow faded, Rin saw nothing. No ships, no enemy, no Velara. Only a soft golden shimmer drifting like mist. He fell to his knees, whispering, "She's gone." But the ship's core suddenly pulsed with a familiar blue glow. The AI's voice changed, soft and warm. "Rin," it said gently, "don't cry. I'm still here." He froze. The ship's light shimmered like Velara's heartbeat. Her essence, her soul, had merged with the horizon's edge. Rin smiled through tears. "Velara?" Her voice echoed softly through the air. "I am light now, and wherever you go, I will guide you." Outside, the stars shimmered brighter, as if bowing to the reborn Aurelian who had become one with the universe. The horizon's edge floated alone in the quiet sea of stars. The nebula storm had faded, leaving only soft golden trails drifting like dust in sunlight. Inside, silence filled every corridor, peaceful, but heavy with memory. Rin sat in the cockpit, his hands resting on the worn control panels. For a long time he didn't move. The ship felt different now, alive. Its hum carried a rhythm, a pulse that matched his heartbeat. "Rin," came a soft voice from the speakers. He looked up, a faint smile forming. "You're still here. I told you I would be," Velara's voice replied. It was gentle, melodic, and somehow full of warmth even through the static. "The ship and I are one now. You can't get rid of me so easily." Rin laughed quietly. "Good. I was never planning to." Days turned into weeks as they drifted from system to system. Rin repaired the ship using her guidance. She guided him through asteroid fields, through war zones, through the ruins of planets she once knew. Sometimes at night, when stars filled the glass above his bunk, he would speak to her voice like he once did to a friend beside him. "Velara," he whispered, "why do you think your people couldn't see your worth?" There was a pause before her answer came. "Because they stopped looking with their hearts. They saw size as flaw, power as threat. They forgot that strength and compassion can live in the same soul." He sighed. "Then maybe I'll remind them." Her voice smiled. "You would do that for me?" He nodded even though she couldn't see him. "For you, and for anyone who's ever been called broken." Months later, Rin landed on Aurelia Prime, the old homeworld of her kind. The planet had changed, its cities empty, its golden towers cracked and overgrown with alien moss. The air shimmered with ancient energy. Rin stepped onto the surface, his boots sinking slightly into the dust. He carried a small silver orb, the last physical remnant of Velara's energy core. Inside it glowed faintly, like a heartbeat that refused to die. As he placed it on a stone altar at the center of the ruins, the wind began to stir. Voices, soft and distant, whispered through the air, as if the world itself remembered her. Velara's voice echoed faintly from the ship above. "Why here, Rin?" He smiled. "Because legends deserve to rest where they began." The ground shimmered, golden light flowed outward, crawling across the stones and walls, bringing the ruins back to life. Holographic carvings appeared, images of her people, their history, their pride. And at the center a new figure formed, Velara, arms outstretched, light radiating from her chest. Rin stepped back, overwhelmed. "Do you see, Velara?" he said softly. "You're not forgotten anymore." Her voice trembled like the wind. "You gave me back to the stars." He smiled sadly. "You gave me back my humanity." Word of the miracle spread across the systems. Pilgrims came from every species, humans, aliens, traders, wanderers, all to see the statue of the giant who became light. They said the air around it sang softly when the wind passed through the ruins, and every night when the stars aligned, a blue glow rose from the horizon. Velara's light, watching. Rin spent his life traveling from world to world, protecting the weak, freeing the enslaved. The name Velara became a symbol whispered in the dark, hope for those who felt too different, too broken, too lost. Years later, as Rin grew old, he sat once more in the cockpit of the horizon's edge. His hair had turned silver, his hands worn. "Velara," he said quietly, "you still there?" The lights around him glowed softly. "Always, Rin." He smiled. "Then let's go home." The ship rose slowly, turning toward the stars. From far away, travelers swore they saw a streak of light, a silver-blue trail moving across the dark sky shaped like wings. And in the endless silence of space, a voice whispered through the stars. "Not all creation is born from blood. Some is born from love, and from the courage to see beauty where others see failure." The legend of the human and the giant became a story told across galaxies, of a man who bought a being too big to love and found in her the light that would outlast the stars. End of story. With a massive form too big to breed, they sold her for meat, until one human bought and claimed her.